Hey there, Manhwa lovers! Today we're recapping a story called Noble in Name, Vulgar at Heart. Please like this video and subscribe, it helps us a lot. Ariana Bronte was born from a political marriage between the daughter of the Western Duke and the Eastern Duke. She held a noble status, equal to a princess of the Eastern Territory, yet her life was filled with despair. She never longed for great love, all she wanted was simple affection, but she never received it. Not from her husband, not from her family. No one ever showed her warmth, and with each passing day, she quietly begged for it in her heart. When she first met her husband, he told her he liked women like her. At the time, she did not understand what he meant. She believed he was the answer to the love she had been searching for. He promised her his imperial sanctuary once he ascended the throne. Desperate and lonely, she believed his sweet words. Blinded by his warmth, she gave herself completely to him and became nothing more than his tool. Ariana was blinded by Prince Harold's power and turned into his puppet. She harmed many people, staining her hands red with blood. The price of her blind loyalty was death. She was branded a traitor and captured for the assassination of His Majesty and the Crown Prince. Even in her worst nightmares, she never imagined that Harold would betray her after ascending the throne. "Ariana, this can't be true, right? You can't do this to me!" she cried. Ariana froze when she saw her sister, Victoria, standing beside him. Seeing the man she trusted in her sister's arms felt unreal. Watching them kiss before her eyes shattered her completely. Her world collapsed, and she was powerless to stop it. She was thrown into prison for her ignorance. Later, her sister Helena came to visit her. Ariana could only ask where everything had gone wrong. "What did you do wrong?" Helena asked with a mocking smile. To Helena, the only mistake she had ever made was being born. Ariana was confused. Helena touched her softly and began to explain. She said that every time her mother looked at Ariana, she was reminded of the Eastern Duke she had been forced to marry. It made her feel sick, filled with disgust. Ariana was the result of that unwanted marriage. "Every time I see you, I feel sick to my stomach," Helena said coldly. "I pity Mother for being forced into that marriage." Ariana's eyes widened. Memories rushed back to her. Her childhood, her mother's endless beatings, the curses thrown at her for being born, the time she was told never to show her face again. Only now, when it was far too late, did she finally understand. There had never been love in her family. There had never been love in her marriage. Everything was a connection, a transaction. She had never received even the smallest affection that any ordinary person would get, not once, and now she realized how foolish she had been. "You're right, sister," Ariana said softly, her voice broken. "I think it was all my fault." Helena looked surprised and asked if she had finally come to her senses now that she was about to die. Then, Helena kicked her to the ground. "It's too late now," she said. At that moment, a guard walked in holding a rope and fixed it in place for her execution. Helena told Ariana to show her final loyalty to His Majesty, Emperor Harold, who had graciously accepted someone as worthless as her. From the ground, Ariana stared at the rope. She was told to die bearing all of their sins. She blamed herself for wishing to be loved, not knowing that love itself was a sin in that world. Helpless, she stood up and climbed toward the rope. In her mind, she thought, "If I am ever given another chance at life..." Before she could finish, Helena interrupted. "If you are reborn," she said cruelly, "come back as an insect. At least then you can be food for beasts and be useful." Helena watched as she placed the rope around her neck and kicked the chair away. As Ariana took her final breath, one thought filled her mind. If she were ever given another chance to live, she would never wish for love again. She would never love anyone again. Instead, she would remember their faces, carve their deaths into her heart, and hold every one of them accountable. Ariana died bearing the crime of assassinating the former emperor and later took her own life on her birthday to atone for her sins. That was how the assassination case came to a close. The great empire of Camellia, a continent once plagued by constant turmoil, seemed to settle under the empire and its 4 territories. Yet beneath the surface, power struggles never stopped. The eastern, western, southern, and northern territories constantly clashed around the imperial throne. The Eastern Territory was prosperous, rich in resources and military strength, powerful enough to keep even the emperor in check. The Western Territory sowed discord between the emperor and the East, seeking only personal gain. The Southern Territory remained quiet and distant, stepping back from the tides of war. Lastly, there was the Northern Territory, ruled by the youngest and most beautiful duke in history, Northern Duke Cyrus Karha. The power of the territorial dukes rivaled that of the royal family. Among them, the one surrounded by the most rumors was the young sovereign known for his beauty, noble as the moon itself, Northern Duke Cyrus Karha. He rose to power at a young age and owed a moral debt to the emperor, who had turned a blind eye to the deaths of his parents. Though he appeared fully focused on suppressing the heretics of Paganus, in truth, he was quietly building his forces and waiting for the right time. In the year 222 of the Rotten Calendar, the same period Ariana died, the third prince, Harold, seized the throne by colluding with the Western Duke. Soon after, Northern Duke Cyrus declared independence of the Northern Territory and proclaimed the birth of the Arcana Empire. At the same time, he declared war on the Camellia Empire. By the year 224 of the Rotten Calendar, both the Eastern and Western territories had fallen. The Camellia Empire was overthrown, and the heads of Emperor Harold and Empress Victoria were displayed on the palace walls. That served them right. Their crimes were made public: assassination of the former emperor and the crown prince. Only then, 2 years after her death, was Ariana's accusation cleared. She got justice in death. Too bad. Cyrus was a cold-blooded duke with hair white as moonlight and eyes red like rubies. Cyrus Karha, who would later become the emperor of the Arcana Empire. Ariana Bronte, a girl who only wished to be loved yet was used and died an unjust death. These two never crossed paths in history. They walked separate roads and were never meant to meet. But now, Ariana Bronte was sent 12 years to the past before everything began, and for the first time, their paths crossed. In the winter of year 210 of the Rotten Calendar, in the Western Territory, at the Bronte ducal estate, Cyrus saw Ariana for the first time. Ariana stood outside the gallery, her mind in chaos. She wondered how it was even possible that she was still alive. She remembered clearly how she died, taking the crown prince's crimes upon herself, yet now she has returned to her childhood. Looking down from above, she heard Victoria and Helena talking excitedly. They were discussing how thrilled they were to attend the Northern Duke's party. Helena Bronte, the first daughter of the Bronte ducal house, blushed as she spoke. She said it would be wonderful if the Northern Duke created a flower for her using his ice magic. Victoria Bronte, the second daughter, frowned and said she found him frightening. She had heard that he once ignored the imperial princess's greeting and that he killed a dancer on the spot just for approaching him. Helena waved it off, saying those were just rumors and she did not believe them. Then Victoria asked if Helena had also heard the rumor that the Northern Duke was currently in the Eastern Territory. They spoke with excitement and admiration while Ariana watched them quietly. In her heart, everything became clear. Their age, their words, and the mention of the Northern Duke being in town means she had returned to the winter of year 210 of the Rattan calendar. That meant she was 16 again. How is this even possible? Why did this happen? Her mind flashed back to her final moments. Helena's cruel smile. Victoria standing in the place that should have been hers. Too bad she wasn't alive to see what later happened to them. Now that things had turned out this way, Ariana had only one resolve. She would make them pay for everything they had done to her. She would make them regret the day she was born. I'll make them regret it all. Yes, girl, show no mercy. You need to get justice yourself. Just then, a maid called out to her, saying her meal was ready. Ariana glanced over as the maid placed the food down, saying it had been 3 days and she must be starving. The maid dropped a plate of leftover, spoiled food onto the table. She smirked and said Ariana would never find a mistress as generous as this one, someone who cared enough to feed a lady with such sticky hands. Ariana stared at the food as memories returned. Today was that day. The day she was locked in her room after being accused of stealing Lady Rachel's necklace. The day she refused to eat spoiled food. The day the maid beat her to pulp. The noise had drawn the attention of Lady Rachel's mother-in-law, the Dowager Duchess Bronte. Ariana had pleaded desperately, crying that she was innocent. But things only grew worse. Luigi, the maid who had been harassing her, suddenly pulled the necklace from under the table. Just like that, Ariana was proven guilty and scolded even harsher. Remembering this, Ariana checked under the table. Just as she thought. The necklace was there. Now, who will be punished this time? She looked up at the maid. "You expect me to eat this?" Ariana asked, distracting her, as she quietly took the necklace into her hand. Luigi crossed her arms and sneered. She said that was right, since it was Ariana's first meal after 3 days. She should hurry up and eat. How could anyone serve that and expect another to eat? Luigi thought to herself that the mistress truly hated Ariana, the girl who had been forced into the Bronte household from the Eastern Territory. Helena was no different. It was Helena who had ordered her to fetch food from the trash. Even so, Luigi wondered how Ariana was supposed to eat something like this. Everyone in the family knew the servants treated Ariana with disrespect. No one stopped it. Instead, they enjoyed watching it happen. Luigi shoved Ariana arrogantly and told her to hurry up and eat. The weak girl lost her balance and fell backward. Seeing how she could treat a noble lady like dirt thrilled Luigi. For once in her life, she felt superior, better than a noble daughter who was treated like trash. "Stop whining and get up already," Luigi sneered. Ariana grabbed onto Luigi's dress and slowly stood up, calling her name. In that brief moment, she quietly slipped the necklace back into Luigi's pocket without her noticing. "Your fabric looks expensive," Ariana said softly, her mission already successful. Luigi laughed. She said her clothes were far more expensive than Ariana, so what nonsense was she talking about? Then she kicked Ariana again, asking if she thought she could waste time just to avoid eating. Ariana fell to the ground. Luigi kept stomping on her, expecting her to cry as usual. But instead of tears, Ariana lifted her head and glared at her. Luigi froze. What was that look in her eyes? "Don't act out of character, just eat your meal," Luigi snapped. At that moment, Ariana noticed the Dowager Duchess passing by outside. She lowered her gaze and finally nodded. "I will eat," she said quietly. Like she instructed. Luigi was stunned. She watched as Ariana picked up the fork and stabbed it into the spoiled food. As Ariana brought it closer to her mouth, Luigi began to feel uneasy. Something was wrong. The girl who never dared to look her in the eyes was now staring straight at her, and it was terrifying. Had she changed into someone else? The moment Ariana swallowed a bite, she began to cough violently. Luigi panicked and demanded to know what was happening. Ariana collapsed to the floor, clutching her stomach and groaning in pain. "Hey, get a hold of yourself!" Luigi shouted as she rushed over. "What's wrong with you?" Ariana did not respond. Luigi stared at her in shock. It looked like her lady had lost consciousness. Panic rushed in. If Ariana died, she would be blamed for everything. The maid ran out in a hurry to call for help. On the other side of the window, Cyrus and his subordinates had witnessed everything. "Oh no," one of them said. "The second daughter has collapsed. Poor girl. If she had stayed in the Eastern Territory, she would have lived as a princess. Instead, she's treated like this in the West." Cyrus cut in calmly. He said that even if she was the daughter of an enemy or a future enemy, she herself bore no sin. His subordinate asked what the girl could even do in such a situation. She did not even seem to be fed properly. Cyrus smiled mischievously. He said she doesn't look like someone who knows nothing. On the floor, Ariana, who was only pretending to be unconscious, let out a small smile. This is really getting interesting. Our girl is definitely going to make them pay. The doctor arrived and examined Ariana. When he was done, he turned to them and said it was food poisoning, with clear signs of malnutrition as well. He advised them to be mindful of the young lady's health. Unless the duchy was facing financial difficulty, they should at least provide her with fresh food. The dowager's maid stood there in shock. Anyone who hears that a noble lady is suffering from malnutrition can easily tell what is going on. The doctor bowed and left. Kiel Bronte, the former Duchess of House Bronte and Rachel's mother-in-law, turned to Ariana's mother and asked if this child truly had been living like this. "Of course not, Mother," Rachel replied quickly. She said Ariana was only temporarily confined as punishment for stealing. From the bed, Ariana watched silently. She couldn't help but think how ridiculous the excuse was. Everyone here knew how she had been treated, but the former Duchess had not visited in a long time, so she and her maids were unaware of what was happening. Hearing it was a punishment, the former Duchess nodded, saying she understood, while her maids whispered among themselves. Ariana knew this was the perfect moment. She slowly sat up. "No, grandmother, I didn't steal the necklace." Kiel turned in surprise. Rachel clenched her teeth in annoyance. Her mother forced a smile and tried to stop her, telling her to rest, but Ariana continued. She begged her grandmother to believe her and added that she didn't even know what the necklace looked like. The former Duchess might not care about her since she was not her blood, but her maids were nobles. If word spread that the Duchess mistreated her own daughter, it would cause trouble. "Is it because I'm not Duke Bronte's biological daughter?" Ariana asked. Everyone froze, especially her mother. The dowager's maids immediately began whispering, and Kiel's expression darkened. She turned to Rachel and asked what kind of necklace had gone missing to cause such a scene. "Do you even have proof that she stole it?" she asked. Rachel explained that the necklace was a wedding gift from her husband. "The one covered in diamonds?" the dowager asked. Immediately, Ariana spoke up. "If it was diamonds, then Luigi, the maid over there," she pointed, and Luigi froze. Ariana said Luigi had found a diamond necklace and wanted to sell it to make new clothes. "That's a lie," Luigi shouted. "I never said that." Kiel immediately ordered her maids to search Luigi. She protested loudly, saying they could search her because she had nothing to hide. To her shock, the necklace was pulled from her pocket. Everyone was stunned, especially Rachel. Ariana also looked shocked on the surface. In her heart, Ariana smiled. She had finally done it. It was small, but she had proven her innocence. For the first time, she realized she could change her future by taking matters into her own hands. Luigi dropped to her knees, begging and crying that it was a misunderstanding. She accused Ariana of framing her. Kiel was furious. She could not believe a servant would steal from her master and speak so boldly toward a noble lady. She ordered the maid to be beaten and thrown out of the estate. Luigi immediately turned to Rachel, begging her desperately. She said she only did it because of Lady Helena. "Shut up," Rachel shouted. But when she turned around, she saw the dowager's maids had already heard everything. Rachel panicked. If Luigi was thrown out now, she might spread rumors about Helena. She hurriedly begged her mother-in-law not to be too harsh and said she would punish the maid herself. Ariana watched quietly. She thought it was almost laughable. Her mother was groveling before the former Duchess, just like Ariana had once done. Rachel had met Jacob Bronte at a young age and fallen in love, but as the Princess of Westreach, Jacob's mother, Kiel Bronte, did not want her son marrying a woman of higher status. Jacob could not go against his mother's wishes. Rachel desperately tried to win the Duchess's approval, but her father, the Markgrave of Westreach, ordered her to marry the Eastern Lord and leak the secrets of Eastreach. Rachel obeyed. She married the Eastern Lord, gave birth to Ariana, and later returned. Only after Rachel begged for acceptance and ruined herself in the pursuit of love did the Duchess allow her into the Bronte family. Watching her mother now, Ariana understood. She had taken after her mother, but she had decided to change. She would never throw her life away for love again. Cyrus and his subordinate watched the entire drama unfold until nightfall. His subordinate excitedly exclaimed that karma truly exists and said he liked how well planned that girl's act was. Cyrus, however, thought to himself that she was only 16, yet her gaze and composure, even in the face of a maid's rudeness, carried an unexplainable aura. Strangely, he found it hard to look away from those icy blue eyes. It's crazy that this male lead just sat there watching and did nothing. If Ariana hadn't fought for herself, he wouldn't have intervened at all. At this point, I feel like he witnessed this in the past and chose to turn a blind eye. His subordinate turned to him and said the little charade was over, so what now? Cyrus replied that he would search the mansion that night. His knight agreed and said maybe it was hidden here. Perhaps Rachel Bronte is keeping it, he added calmly. Soon, the entire mansion fell silent. Ariana quietly sneaked into the kitchen, knowing it was always empty at this hour. As she searched through the cabinets, she thought to herself that Rachel had always resented her for looking too much like the Eastern Lord. Not only did she beat her often, she barely fed her. Who even does that to their own daughter? Ariana regretted not sneaking in to steal food back then. She wondered why she had starved herself out of fear. Sitting on the floor, she decided she would never starve like a fool again. From now on, she would feed herself in secret. She lifted the food to her mouth and took a bite. Suddenly, a voice called her full name and commented that she had a very peculiar way of eating and quite a big mouth. Ariana froze, still chewing. She looked up in confusion. That was not a servant's voice, and she had never heard it. It dawned on her that this person was an intruder. Cyrus snapped his fingers and the room instantly lit up with ice flowers. Ariana's cries widened. There was only one mage capable of lighting a room with a single flick of his hand. Crimson eyes, skin white like pearls, there was no doubt. Standing before her was the Northern Lord, Cyrus Karha. She found it strange and wondered why he was here. Before encountering Cyrus in the kitchen, Ariana had already been lost in thought. She knew the old lady no longer paid attention to her, but she didn't care. She could manage with the power she had now. She also knew she only had a few months left. Soon, Rachel would marry her off to Ingo Alfreich, the Viscount of Seryung. The moment she turned 16, the legal age for marriage, she would be sold off without hesitation. After all, Rachel hated her. Ariana knew she had to leave this estate before that happened. The horrifying days she spent in House Alfreich were something she never wanted to relive. The only way to escape that fate was to seek the protection of the Eastern Marquis, her father, the Eastern Duke, Russell White. In her previous life, she had only seen him once at a royal banquet. They never spoke. From his expression alone, she could tell he loathed her because she was Rachel's daughter. It's insane that two people who hate each other would give birth to a child and also hate the child. Bro, you brought her into this world. Why so much hatred? I can't believe even her father, whom she resembles so much, hated her this much. As she searched through the cabinets, Ariana told herself it was fine. Even if he disliked her, there had to be a way to make him accept her, at least in name. She knew the eastern, western, southern, and northern territories surrounded the Camellia Empire under the guise of protection. Yet, among them, there were rankings of power and hidden rivalries. The Western Duke had sent his daughter to the east as a political move, and that was the key. His strained relationship with the Emperor was caused by the Western Duke. If Ariana brought the Western Duke's weakness to the Eastern domain, the Eastern Duke would take her in. She wasn't hoping for a father's love. She wanted only one thing, the status of being the Eastern Duke's daughter. Holding the food in her hand, Ariana thought that if she could have that, she could endure whatever treatment came with it. That was the moment Cyrus called out to her. Ariana turned sharply, glaring at the man standing at the door who was mocking the way she ate. As she faced him, one thought crossed her mind. So the rumors of the Northern Duke visiting around this time were true after all. A man she had never seen in her past life, only heard stories about. She clenched her fists. Why would the Northern Duke enter the Bronte estate at such an hour? His name was always followed by blood. Now that he had revealed himself to her, what did that mean? In the worst case, she knew he could silence her by killing her right there. But then she imagined dying again at 16. It was fine. It wouldn't be her first death. This life was already a bonus, so she had nothing to fear. Ariana brushed his hand away fearlessly and said she hadn't expected the Northern Duke to visit the Bronte estate at this hour. If she had known, she would have come out to receive him properly. Cyrus paused, clearly shocked. He leaned closer and asked how she knew who he was. Silver hair and red eyes are traits permitted only to the House of Karha, she replied. He moved even closer, smiling faintly. Ariana added that she had heard he was as beautiful as a painting, someone who made a lady's heart race, and it seems those rumors were true. Is that so? He asked lightly. Then why is your heart racing? Ariana glared at him, trying to read his intentions. She had expected threats, maybe even death, but instead he was joking. That made him even harder to understand. Cyrus asked if he had interrupted her meal. She replied that he could join her. It would be an honor. He praised her for having the talent of saying things she didn't mean. She asked what he meant, and told him she was only flustered after seeing his grace, whom she had only known through rumors. She said this all to make him leave so she could eat in peace. But he didn't move an inch. She turned away and said she would pretend none of this happened tonight and hope he would do the same. So, you mean you'll pretend you didn't see me if I pretend I didn't see your terrible table manners? She replied calmly, that you are truly astute. Cyrus froze for a moment, then gently brushed aside a strand of her hair. He said women usually have two reactions when they saw him. One was fear, the other was to immediately seek favors from him. But you seem to be neither. When Ariana looked into his eyes, all she saw was darkness, deep, heavy, and ominous, like a lake of blood with no visible bottom. She knew the Northern Duke was only 20 years old at this time. She had returned to the past and reflected on herself, yet she wondered what he had been through to have eyes filled with such emotions. Lost in thought, she didn't realize she had almost reached out to touch his eyes. Cyrus suddenly grabbed her wrist, startling her and pulling her back to reality. She froze, remembering the rumors of what happened to women who dared to touch him. Cyrus smiled and asked if his eyes were so alluring that she felt compelled to touch them. She frowned slightly and said he was different from the rumors. Then she told him she would take her leave if he had no business with her. He was surprised. Just then, footsteps echoed from outside. A group of maids were coming down to the kitchen, yawning and complaining about why Lady Helena wanted chocolate at such an hour of the night. They talked about how Luigi wasn't punished much, and neither was Helena after what she had done to Ariana. They complained about how spoiled she was. Before Ariana could react, Cyrus pulled her close and hid with her inside the storage room. The maids continued talking, saying that even though Helena was the former Duchess's daughter, Rachel still treated her like her own. One maid sounded surprised, saying she hadn't known that. Ariana could feel how cold his Grace's hands were. As the maids searched for chocolate, one explained that Helena was born to the previous Duchess, not the current madam. After divorcing a countryside noblewoman, the Duke remarried the current madam. It was rarely spoken of because it was a sensitive matter. Then the maids noticed the chocolate was stored on that side and decided to check the room Ariana and Cyrus were hiding in. Ariana's heart pounded. If she was caught alone with a strange man, it would be a disaster. She was already a thorn in their side. Being discovered like this would only give Rachel another reason to torment her. She silently prayed they wouldn't come in. But the door opened. The maid peeked inside. Cyrus covered Ariana's mouth and glared toward the maid. Did they really get caught? I wish they could just disappear. The maid passed right in front of them without saying a word, which left Ariana confused. She wondered how it was possible. The maids were always eager to get her in trouble, and the more mistakes they reported, the greater the reward Rachel gave them. Yet this one walked straight past, grabbed what she wanted, and left as if Ariana and the man beside her didn't even exist. Watching them leave so casually, it suddenly clicked. It could only be one person's doing, Cyrus. Which means he has the magic to make them invisible. If he has such power, why did he even hold on to her and hide in the first place? This man really is something else. It seems I've done you a favor. You owe me one. Ariana glared, thinking, what is he even talking about? I would have been back in my room if he hadn't shown up. She told him she didn't know the Northern Duke had a habit of making people indebted to him. He replied, wrapping his arm around her shoulders, of course you wouldn't know. We've just met. You'll start learning soon enough. Ariana wondered why he was acting so strangely. The move felt like something a man flirting with a woman would do, but the expression in his eyes hadn't changed at all. She asked cautiously, His Grace, is there something you want from me? He tilted his head and replied, what could a lady who isn't even recognized as the lady of the ducal house possibly offer me? We've only just met, but you seem to know a lot about me, she said. He smirked. There is nothing I don't know. He added that he even knew her mother favored the first young lady over her own first biological daughter. Ariana's eyes widened slightly, but she thought to herself that she understood why Rachel liked Helena, but it was a secret she wouldn't have discovered if she hadn't gotten close to the third prince. She wondered just how much Cyrus really knew and what his true motives were for coming here. Cyrus held her closer and said quietly, Helena is Rachel's biological daughter. Ariana already knew this, but she acted surprised so he wouldn't suspect her. She pushed him lightly and asked, Why would you even say that? How is that possible? Cyrus smiled faintly. You don't seem very shocked, but I'll tell you anyway. When marriage talks with the Eastern Duke began, Rachel was already pregnant with Jacob's child. When the Western Duke found out, he was furious, but Rachel threatened to take her own life rather than give up her child. Because of her adamant stance, the Duke permitted the birth, but instead of raising the child in his household, he brought in the daughter of a low-ranking baron from the rural Western territory to marry Jacob. She faked a pregnancy immediately after the wedding and raised Helena, the child Rachel had born. Then, Rachel entered a political marriage in the East as a spy. When it was time for her to return, Jacob spread rumors that his wife had committed adultery and fled. The former duchess was never seen again. He remarried, and they had Victoria, a symbol of their love. Meanwhile, Helena lived as the daughter of a commoner, a constant reminder of the pain Rachel had endured. This is crazy! There really are secrets surrounding the household, and all of them work in Ariana's favor. Ariana asked Cyrus why he was telling her all of this. He replied that it was because he was interested in what she would do next. The room fell silent. When Ariana spoke, she told him she had no intention of doing anything. After all, she was a woman who wasn't even acknowledged as a young lady of the ducal house. She bowed, thanking him for today and expressing how honored she was to have met him. Cyrus smiled and asked if he meant that she didn't want to see him again. Ariana said he understood her very well and should look the other way now. She excused herself, preparing to leave, but he stopped her again, calling her the second young lady of House Bronte. Ariana froze, thinking to herself, a title she had never been called in her past life, recognition she had desperately sought, but now knew it wasn't hers. She let go of his grasp, shouting that she was neither Bronte nor a young lady of the house. He smiled and asked, Then what should I call you? She stepped forward and said firmly, You have no reason to call me anything. They parted ways and Cyrus left the mansion. His subordinate panicked immediately upon seeing him. What on earth did you just do? You got involved in an unnecessary mess and engaged in pointless chatter when there was no need. You pulled the young lady close and used stealth magic. At this point, I'm wondering just how much power these two have. They're no ordinary people, that's for sure. The man drew him close and touched his forehead. I'm beginning to wonder if I'm sick or maybe the water here doesn't suit me. Cyrus shook him off. I'm perfectly fine. Why did you do that? With a serious expression, Cyrus said, That woman has value. She might be useful. His subordinate looked confused. Useful? You mean your plan involves flirting with her and telling her confidential secrets instead of threatening her as usual? Cyrus shook his head. She isn't someone broken by brute force. I'm sure she knows something and she might uncover it, making it easier to deal with the Western and Eastern dukes. His subordinate still didn't understand. And what if she turns out to be useless? Cyrus replied calmly, Then I'll discard her. With that look in your eyes, young man, I doubt you can do that. The next day, Helena was walking through the hallway when she heard someone call her name from behind. It was Victoria. I heard you got in trouble with Mother, she said, smiling. How are you feeling? That's strange. Why does it feel like these two are going to be a problem for each other? Helena angrily pointed at Victoria. It's all your fault. She told Mother to give her spoiled food. Now she collapsed after eating it and tattled to Grandma. Victoria made a pitiful, mocking expression. I only said Ariana would be fine eating leftovers. Now look at her, living it up because Mother brought her here. Victoria grabbed Helen's arm. You got scolded because of it? I feel awful. Helena looked away, saying as long as Victoria felt bad, then that was enough. Victoria glared, saying she must have felt so wrong and it was all Ariana's fault, and because of her, now she's being pushed, only getting one maid to serve her, while that Ariana girl gets to lounge around in her fancy new room. I seriously can't stand her, Helena yelled at entering her room, asking why that brat didn't stay in the East and had to come here and make trouble. Immediately, her eyes fell on Cyrus's portrait on the wall. She smiled, saying she feels better now after looking at that handsome face. I knew putting the portrait of the Northern Lord in my room was the right call, she exclaimed. Victoria asked if she thought the real Northern Duke actually looked like that, because they say nobles get their portraits done to look better than they do in real life. Helena replied, saying they'll find out when the Northern Duke arrives. I wonder when he'll get here. Mom had sent an invitation, right? Victoria replied, saying yes, after she begged her enough. Victoria suddenly switched to her dark aura, saying she feels bad for Ariana. Helena yelled, asking why she feels bad for her. Victoria replied saying she knows Ariana would want to go to the party since the Northern Duke would be there, but she doesn't have any pretty clothes nor knows anything about etiquette, so she'll probably just embarrass herself if she comes. Helena leaned closer, saying she just got an idea. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Ariana looked out the window thinking to herself, it's been a few days since she ran into the Northern Duke, and thankfully she hasn't seen him again. She wondered if he had already left, or maybe, like in her past life, she wouldn't see him again. She suddenly felt cold, thinking to herself, finally, it's tomorrow. The garden party at the Bronte estate is tomorrow, but with this cold weather, they'll probably just drink tea in the massive greenhouse. There's only one reason to hold such a party in this weather. Helena's debutante ball is just a few months away. So before then, Rachel wants to help her build connections with the prominent families in the capital. In her past life, she remembers that her efforts did help Helena. Walking through the hallway, she heard the maids whispering to themselves upon seeing her, and she knew Rachel would find out she left her room, but she didn't care anymore. After all, Helena is probably excited with the party preparations by now. In the past, she remembered it was the day they finally let her out of her room. She was so excited to be free that she wandered about in the garden and mistakenly ran into her mother, the one person who hated her with passion. Rachel slapped her and yelled angrily, asking how dare she go out without her permission. Back then, she took the hits without resistance, but this time around, she refused to stay like that. She glared at her, and Rachel began hitting her, asking who taught her to look into her eyes. Ariana thought to herself, since she came back, she's been meaning to ask her a question. Do I really need your permission just to look into your eyes? She asked, thinking to herself, is that the reason she hates me this much? Because I have the same eyes as the Eastern Lord? She added, leaving Rachel in shock. Ariana thought to herself, just because she looks like the man her mother despised, is that enough reason to hate her this much? Rachel got so angry that she cursed at her, beating her nonstop and asking how she could talk back to her. It's really annoying that she just stands still and lets this wicked woman lay hands on her. You should be grateful I even let you get born. You think I wanted to give birth to someone like you? Rachel said, hitting her nonstop, thinking to herself that it was because of this child she had to leave her newborn Helena just to give birth to her. She could only imagine how disgusting Ariana was, just like her father, the Eastern Duke. If she hadn't listened to him back then, maybe she wouldn't have to raise her. Back then, the Eastern Duke had given her the order to take Ariana with her and raise her to be just like her, then marry her off. Every word that man wrote in that letter makes her blood boil even now, and just by looking at Ariana, it makes her skin crawl. Just then, the weather changed and became stormy, making Rachel struggle to stand, leaving Ariana surprised. Why all of a sudden? She complained, then froze when she saw hailstones on the ground. She glared at Ariana, ordering her to stay right there and not go anywhere, saying she really needs to reflect on her actions. Immediately, she left. Ariana glared when she saw Cyrus. He reached out his hand to her, but she stayed seated on the ground looking at him. This male lead is just the worst. Before Rachel left, Ariana had thought to herself that she couldn't understand, which is why she decided to check one last time. But now she'll give up. If her mother hates her, then it's only fair for her to hate her back. Yes, girl, that's what we want. Don't let her lay hands on you again. That was when Cyrus showed up, reaching out his hand to her. Ariana asked if he could control the weather too, and he clenched his fist, saying it was only a spell. He told her he had done her another favor, then asked why she provoked her mother like that. She glared at him, saying she merely asked what she had been curious about and didn't mean to provoke her. She added she didn't know that His Highness the Northern Duke was still here, and had she known, she would have properly welcomed him. Cyrus told her he didn't like being welcomed. Ariana replied, if he stayed out in the cold like this, the ladies who admire him would be heartbroken if he caught a cold. He asked if she'd be sad too, and she replied she'd cry herself to sleep. The way these two flirt is really weird. Cyrus leaned closer, saying he thinks she'd find it amusing. She smiled, thinking to herself that he's sharp. She told him she'd take her leave since he seemed busy. As she turned away, he stopped her, calling her the lady whom I could neither call by name nor had a reason to call. She glanced back, confused, asking, what did he just say? Then remembered that night she had told him those exact same words. She wondered why the Northern Duke was playing words with her. He called her that again, saying he had advice for her, but she sighed, saying she'll pass. He was about to call her that again when she interrupted, telling him to call her Ariana. He smiled and said, very well then. Seeing him smile like that, she was surprised and thought to herself that he does know how to make such an expression. She looked away, asking what advice he had for her. Ariana, he called, saying she needs to learn how to hide that look in her eyes. Touching her eye, he told her she's revealing killing intent with such a frail body, and it will only hasten her death. With both their faces so close to each other, she told him his eyes are far more filled with killing intent as well. He replied that he's stronger. Ariana told him she was jealous of him because if she were as strong as he was, maybe she wouldn't need to hide her feelings. Cyrus asked what feelings, but she smiled, saying a busy man like him shouldn't be bothered by her feelings. She added that she hoped he would finish what he planned quickly. He asked if she meant that he should finish quickly and disappear so he wouldn't have to bother her. Ariana smiled, saying that's exactly what she wanted. She turned away and left, and he stood there unable to stop her. Cyrus exclaimed, saying he couldn't believe she could look so elegant in such clothes. Just then, his subordinate appeared from behind, commenting that she didn't even look 16, and he doubted Rachel Bronte had taught her proper imperial etiquette. He pointed out that Cyrus had helped her again, and Cyrus replied that he was only doing her a favor. It would be easier to use her later. Looking through the hallway glass, Ariana sighed as she saw her own eyes. She couldn't believe she had been walking all this while with such intent in her gaze. She smiled, thinking she would be more careful from now on, but then felt uneasy. It was obvious the Northern Duke had seen right through her. She knew that nothing in this second life would go exactly as planned, but one thing was certain: her actions would change a lot of things in the future. Though she was adjusting, dealing with the Northern Duke felt troubling. Just then, she came across Victoria. "Ah, I finally found you, Ariana," Victoria said. Victoria Bronte, a year younger than her and the youngest daughter of House Bronte. Unlike Helena and Rachel, who bullied her openly, Victoria had always treated her kindly and trusted her. Ariana wondered why it had taken her so long to realize that Victoria was the one who subtly encouraged Helena from the sidelines. Victoria was clever, knowing how to use your charm. In the future, she captivated Harold and became the Empress. Back then, foolish Ariana had walked straight into the path of ruin Victoria had laid out. "It looks like Mother scolded you earlier. Are you okay?" Victoria asked gently. Ariana thought to herself that her greatest obstacle to revenge might be Victoria. She told her she was okay, glaring as she added that she looked somehow different now. So Ariana thought to herself that she must have been too calm and really needed to act her age. After all, she was still young. Ariana coughed, wondering if their mother would like her more if she acted more mature like Victoria. Victoria hugged her, asking what she meant, when everyone clearly liked her. "They say the more parents love a child, the stricter they are. That means Mom has high hopes for you," Ariana said, happily. Ariana thought to herself that Victoria was so quick to let her guard down. She was still just a child, and everyone was young. Victoria was immature, too. There was still a chance to ruin that sweet facade before she grew up. They both sat down and tea was served. Ariana lifted her cup, but Victoria cautioned her that it was still hot. She told her she was almost an adult and should learn proper tea etiquette. Ariana apologized, saying she didn't know. Victoria showed her the plate under the cup and asked why she thought it was there. She poured the tea into the saucer and drank it, explaining that she was supposed to drink it that way with a loud noise. The louder the noise, the more appreciation she showed to the host. This is unbelievable. So this is the best idea the two came up with to embarrass her at the banquet tomorrow? Too bad they don't know she's from the future. Ariana smiled, thanking her for the advice, thinking to herself that Victoria was really trying to make her look foolish. In her past life, she had no idea and ended up embarrassed, but this time, things would be different. She wasn't going to let them trample on her so easily. Sleeping on her bed that night, she had a dream about her past life, how she had shown up at the party looking like a troublesome child, how everyone had talked down on her, and how she had broken down in tears right there while Victoria came over mocking her. Ariana opened her eyes immediately and realized it was only a dream. Her past always came back to her on bitter cold days like this. On this day, before the regression, she had been tricked by Helena and Victoria into showing up at the party dressed like a country bumpkin. She did nothing but cry. She'd been so foolish. But now, if there was no one on her side, she would just have to make one. She knew one person coming to the party today could become her stepping stone if they found out about her situation. Juliana Robenta, Duchess, the Emperor's cousin, and one of the most powerful nobles in the capital's high society. She knew her actions today would could change the future. What lay in front of her now was no longer just about surviving. She needed to seize this chance. Carriages flooded the Bronte mansion, one after another. Cyrus and his subordinate were at a tree, watching closely. His subordinate spoke up, saying how Rachel was trying to build connections for her daughter. Looking up at Cyrus, he suggested that if he showed up at the party, the look on everyone's face would be priceless. Cyrus glanced. "You want me to do that annoying thing for amusement?" he asked. "Come on, isn't it nice to sacrifice yourself for a friend?" his subordinate teased. He added that he had seen the first princess's maids bringing a bunch of goods to the second princess and asked if he wasn't going to check it out. "Why would I?" Cyrus replied. His friend reminded him he wanted to help her, didn't he? Cyrus sighed. "I'm not planning to play nanny," he said. Glancing at Ariana's room from a distance, he noticed she sent the maid back immediately after she brought the mocking clothes. He smiled. She'll be fine without him. The party began. Music played and nobles sat all around exchanging pleasantries. Rachel immediately called out to Duchess Robenta as soon as she saw her. They exchanged greetings and the two princesses bowed to Her Majesty. Duchess Robenta asked about the second princess, wondering why she wasn't present. Rachel replied she wasn't feeling well, but Helena chuckled. "Ariana will soon be here," she said. Rachel turned to her confused. "What do you mean? She said she wouldn't attend because she's unwell." "Me?" someone shouted from behind. Everyone turned, shocked. It was Ariana. She had made her entrance dressed like an orphan, the maid's dress even better than her own. She smiled, showing all the scars on her body and face. Rachel was furious, barely able to contain her rage, wondering what she was doing at the party dressed like that. Rachel rushed to her. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Ariana sadly apologized, saying she was late because no one had told her when the party started. Among them, Victoria was the most shocked. She couldn't believe her plans had failed. She wondered why Ariana was dressed like that and what had happened to the ridiculous clothes prepared for her. She hadn't even covered her bruises with makeup. Victoria knew instantly she needed to send her back immediately. She rushed over, smiling, but before she could speak, Helena grabbed Ariana. Being close to her, she tried to act calm and speak to her, but Ariana freaked out, calling her "my lady." Everyone was shocked. They couldn't believe she was addressing her own sister with such respect. Helena tried to take her away, pretending they were going for tea, but Rachel intervened. "How did she get those clothes?" she demanded. Ariana replied, like a beggar, that she was only hungry and not sick, and added that it was the only clothes she had. She raised her hand, revealing the bruises on her arm, and explained that the maids had scolded her for asking for food, so she came to the party to eat. The nobles murmured among themselves about how poorly she had been treated because she wasn't Bronte's real daughter. Some even said she would have been better off left with her father in the Eastern Territory. Duchess Robenta watched, shocked. Victoria immediately spoke up, asking why Ariana was lying and putting their mother in an awkward situation. She smiled and approached Ariana. "You're really too much," she said. Ariana freaked out, apologizing like a maid and begging to be spared, admitting that she knew she didn't belong there. This is so funny. Ariana just put them all in check. There was nothing they could do now. The guests had seen her bruises. This was her plan all along. She allowed her mother to hit her non-stop to gather these injuries and use them against them now. Wow, take your crown, baby. To the noble ladies, this was the truth. Ariana didn't care if her reputation suffered. Compared to the shame and humiliation she had faced in her previous life, becoming the center of gossip in high society meant nothing. This is where this part of the story ends. If you love this story and you want us to continue, please comment the protagonist's name, Ariana,